Hello and welcome to another episode of Champions of Inspiration. This is going to be fun because I'm going to be with a good friend here, but also the um, innovator, the creator, the power behind the book Second Chances: From Surviving to Thriving. Dr. Ken Hess. Ken, welcome to Champions of Inspiration.
Well, good morning. I assume it's the same time zone, or you may be a little earlier, but it's the now moment everywhere. So happy to be here, Scott.
That's exactly it. Now, Ken, you're of course the author of Synchronicity, and that's really probably the foundation of where Second Chances came from. Second Chances was a book that, um, well, I'll let you give the overview. Give us an overview on what Second Chances is all about.
Okay, I'm more than happy to. So second chances and it's second chances, not one, from surviving to thriving, is an anthology book that came about through Synchronicity. My other book, I had been podcasted all around the world, and people heard it, and I told them I had this idea for this new book called Second Chances. After I had my heart attack, I was told to write a book and talk about people getting second chances in their life journey. And people started contacting me from all over the world. And I said, well, send me your stories. And we wound up with 23, one of which was yours. And so the book was really written through me, not by me. It's a compilation of stories of people going through the traumas of life, some of the worst stuff that could have happened to us. And we came out of the storm, the other side of that traumatic experience, with post-traumatic growth as opposed to post-traumatic stress. And the book is it's a cookbook. It gives people hope and inspiration, and it gives them strategies of how to keep moving. They say when you're going through hell, keep moving. Don't camp. So
Yeah,
this
it gets
book,
warm. Gets warm, that's for sure.
this book is a book of love, hope, and inspiration.
Yeah, no doubt. I know how impressed I was when I read many of the other stories and met the other authors as we did the kickoff to the book. And just to hear their stories, it's funny because I've talked about this, my near death experience and coming through all that is part of the book as well. But I said I feel like an underachiever. Heck, one guy died 5 times, you know. So share a little bit about your story, where this came from, again, now more personally to you, and then we'll expand on the rest. How's that?
Great. Before I talk about my chapter, which was entitled Extra Innings, a reprieve from sudden death, how synchronicity saved my life. Uh, the stories in this book run the whole gamut, Scott. Physical illnesses overcoming, and you're a walking miracle yourself. I mean, the
Well,
fact that you're not, the fact that you could walk and talk and speak and cognate is miraculous, considering when you'll talk about it, what happened to you. Most people don't come back from what you're under the 1%ers, but it's also loss of loved ones in their lives, loss of their dreams, loss of their mentality, depression, anxiety, loss of their the physical ability. The guy didn't die 3 times. They gave him last right 3 times. His name
okay.
was Bobby Deneen. They called him the Miracle Man. That story, like your story, he shouldn't be walking around, but he is, and he's helping people, as are you. So the book, my chapter, very quickly, I was walking on the beach with my wife in California, visiting my son. I didn't feel well. I couldn't keep up with her. I said, we better go back to the condo. Thank God we did, because if I had the heart attack on the beach, they told me I would have died right on the spot. So we went back to our condo 20 minutes away. My wife, I said, my blood sugar must be hypoglycemic. Make me something to eat. I took one bite. And now, ladies and gentlemen, ladies, listen if you are. I know what a hot flash is. My body opened up, every single pore of my body opened up with sweat. Then I got nauseous to the point where I was going to projectile vomit across the room. And then I got the most god-awful pain. People say, how did you know you're having a heart attack? I said, when you have one, you'll know. Like someone took a knife, stabbed me in the chest and in my back simultaneously, where I couldn't even breathe. And I just took one look at Judy and I said 911 and collapsed. Anyway, as it ensued, the guys were down the block. The first responders were out 2 minutes from where I had the heart attack. Thank God, because they started to treat me immediately and get me to the right hospital, to the right doctor. Uh, I mean, en route to the hospital itself, there was a car accident. And every time I think of it, these guys, these first responders, put themselves in harm's way. They went across the highway and they went north on the south side of the highway because they didn't want me to die in the back of the bus. Once I get into the ER, I was handled with a team of about 12 people worked on me, and I got the right doctor because she had just transferred, coincidentally, from New York City at St. Luke's Roosevelt. She was the head interventional cardiologist in all of Southern California. And when she finished stenting me, she says, Dr. Kenny, she was Indian. I love her. I speak to her every year in January, by the way. If you had gone to the other hospital, which was closer by to you, which they couldn't take me because that hospital was on diversion. See how things had to line up? I had to go to her. She said, you wouldn't be here now because you had a very difficult, tortuous arterial system, and they would not have been able to go in and do what I did. I did this for 25 years. Blah, 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 blah. During that experience, I had an OBE. I came out of my body. I saw them working on me, and then I got the message from my soul self. People say, did you meet God? Well, if God is in me, then I met God. I met the soul of Ken. And they said, tell the story. Go back and tell the story and finish. And so then I came back, and the rest is history. I met you and many other wonderful souls. And we had the privilege of launching the book at Life University. I had never met Scott until that. I mean, we had spoken several times.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, if you've never heard this guy speak, you got to go to one of his talks. He is a professional. He's a cut above me. When he gets on that stage, there's a presence, and he's got a powerful message.
Well, thank you. We had a lot of fun there during that time together with everybody gathered. Your story is amazing. I just think of one that I share a fair amount is the mom that went from heroin, taking it, to heroin, being an amazing mom again.
Yeah, that could be a one-woman show. Yeah. Her name is Ray Leonard, and her story is remarkable. How she overcame heroin addiction, and she didn't go to AA. She didn't go to meetings. She just one day woke up and said, "That's it, I'm done." And she was able through her own self-reliance, self-resilience, overcome that terrible addiction.
Yeah, I mean, again, the stories are they're inspiring. They a range of emotions, a range of everything. Our good friend Dr. Gilles Lamarche, and I remember when Gilles first told me, he said, I've adjusted so many people as a chiropractor that I've blown out my body. And he had a pulmonary issue that not healable, not recoverable, terminal, blah, 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 and then went under chiropractic care himself. And now he's just about to turn 70. He's running world-class races around the world for his age group. He's doing all sorts of different things. So, and again, another absolutely phenomenal story in the book. And so if I think what's interesting in what you were saying about the synchronicity of all the different things, right? Similarly for me, I'm walking along and all of a sudden my legs stop. I'm standing on two tingling stumps. I'm walking with 7 people. 3 of them are doctors. Coincidence? I think not, right? And so it's amazing how synchronicity plays into this as long as you're attuned to it and you also go through. So when you kind of got the message to create the book or to rally people to tell their stories, where did that all come from? You think that was your soul speaking to you, or give us what people might experience that they haven't identified very well yet?
Well, without a doubt, it was my soul self speaking to my human self. That was a transmission from the higher self to the lower self. And I listened. It felt right. I knew by the tone and the intuition of the message that I was supposed to do this. And so I started talking about it, and the rest is history. It's funny how synchronicity. I just spoke to Dr. Lamarche 5 minutes before we got on the call. He's
Oh,
down in
that's funny.
Florida. I'm laughing because that's how I met you too originally, through him,
Yeah.
on another call. Yeah, he's been a pivotal person in my life, and we're like the Earth and the Moon. We are orbiting each other continuously. No, it was definitely a soul message. It came from another realm, another level of consciousness of my, the higher consciousness, we call it. So, there's many words. God. It was a God inspiration, a God wink, and it was easy to find. You guys was easy. You found me. I didn't have to go looking for you. That was the other thing.
Yeah.
I'm laughing, and the variety of the stories of resilience, of overcoming some of the worst tragedies. And it's a book for our times. People are suffering. People are going through a lot of stuff. In this book, as I tell when I give book signings and talks, I say this is a supermarket for the world. There's a story in this book for someone in your family.
Yeah.
You're not going to relate to all the stories, but you're definitely going to find one or two, and you want to gift this book to someone in your world who's down and out in Beverly Hills and needs some hope and inspiration. The idea being, if we did it, you can do it too. It's the 4-minute mile, Scott. If you ran that race and you broke that barrier and you had these adversities and you overcame them, that gives people inspiration.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. I had a friend, unfortunately, probably now 2 months ago, go through not exactly what I went through, um, but he went through a heart attack and strokes and a variety of different things piled onto each other. But he's similarly, they were ready to send him to hospice and whatever in the fighting spirit. And friends rallied and prayed and sent messages and shared videos and shared messages of hope and inspiration. And they said, nope, we're not putting him in hospice. Nope, he's just going to get home and he's on his way to recovery. Now it's going to take a while and whatever, but from the point of no, there's nothing we can do, to it's amazing what a message of hope and inspiration can do, right?
Well, neuroscience tells us that thoughts are things. Thoughts have chemical correspondence, and so hope is a very powerful medicine. And I would say the most important vitamin, people, if you're going to take one vitamin, gratitude. Start being
Yeah.
thankful. A lot of G. You need a lot of gratitude and the human brain is an apothecary. It can make just about any and all chemical combinations much more efficient than big pharma could ever hope for. But we all need cheerleaders. We all need people standing side by side, holding space, they call it, for
Mhm.
us to come out of the trials and tribulations. No one's immune from the vicissitudes of life, the ups and the downs and around towns. I don't care how much money you have, how famous you think you are or not. He always calls me up and he says, Scott Schilling, Ken Harris's fan club. I always get a big smile, because my wife says I think I'm a legend in my own mind. I'm just like everybody else. I'm unique, but I'm not special. My ego used to think I was special. So that's why you probably picked up that fan club business. But anyway, this book is without a doubt going to save lives. I'm getting letters now. If you go on Amazon and you read the reviews, it is impacting people. It turned them around. A couple of people said they were ready to commit suicide, and they read the book about people who. There was a lady who did commit suicide and came back. And drug addicts, I get them calling all the time saying, listen, they did it, I'm going to do it too. So, and in the physical business, Scott, I mean, you are the 1/10 of 1%. You should have been a vegetable according to medical science. You should not have survived it. Not only survive it, but you're thriving.
Yeah.
That's the other piece.
That was the piece that I think, as we're recording this, it was actually 2 weeks ago tomorrow. Um, that was my 10-year anniversary of this near death event. And I woke up that morning, and it kind of stunned me. I realized that it was 10 years later, and uh, I did about a 4-minute video that I posted just thanking the people I was with, the doctors in the hospital, my wife, everybody, the same thing, all those that you rally support from. And it's amazing because you don't do it on your own. There's a whole lot of things. So, I mean, it really was, it was a gratitude um, video to just, gratitude for still being here to be able to positively impact lives.
Right.
I mean, that's not a bad thing either, right? If nothing else had happened between then and now, but have the ability to go into 2025 and do what we can do to serve more people. Because I think you're right. I think people, the last few years have not been the easiest years for a variety of reasons. Everything from the pandemic and everything shutting down to people stop talking to each other to people not knowing who to reach out to if they've had issues. And one of the things that the book does, I think, is really give people that hope, or the fact, at least that little piece that says, hey, give me one more day to find out a little bit more, or to meet one more person, or to do one more thing. And then now let's get the next day and the next day and the next day. And people come through. I mean, I haven't received as many letters as you have by any stretch, but it's amazing. It's amazing when people say, hey, I was ... and now I'm not.
Yeah, the beautiful thing about the book, each author has an author's page at the end of their chapter with their contact information. So people can call them, go online, check out their websites, email them. And every chapter gives a summary of tools and strategies on how to overcome a particular challenge in life. So it's really a how-to book. Now, not that everybody's going to duplicate exactly how I did it or you did it, but it gives them, it lets them know, first of all, they're not alone. That's another vital thing. People need to know that they're not the only ones going through the traumas of life, and that other people have had a victory. And we're a community of resilient souls who are here because, in the end, Scott, only here for one really prime reason. It's the giving and receiving of love. That's what we're here really for in the big picture of things.
Yeah.
It's not about becoming rich or famous or writing books. It's about the day-to-day interaction with everyone you meet. Can you say something to uplift somebody? I do that all the time on the beach down here. I find something I can compliment, something about a person I can compliment. I read energy. I could see their aura goes out, but it's genuine. I don't say things that are not true, but that is of hope and inspiration. That's how I would describe it.
Well, I mean, I think it's interesting because my commitment through this period, and I'm trying to think if it was prior, but it might have been, might not have been, but really is to return respect, honor, and dignity to the planet. Respect is how I treat you. Honor is how I lift you up. When we do that well together, we experience dignity, right?
And you wrote a whole book about that. What's the title?
Yeah, I did.
Put a plug in. What's your book? What's your title?
Well, that one is That Sucks, What Now? Real world solutions for getting through what you're going through.
There you go.
But again, I mean, a big part of this is, I think sometimes, unfortunately, I think people get jaded, and have lost the appreciation that there actually are people that would like to help them,
right,
and that there are people available to help them. Right? They can walk into a sunny room and they can find the cloud somewhere, right? It's a shame. And the reality is, in every stormy situation, there's a ray of sunshine. There's something there that is there for you to feel better about whatever it is you're going through. Nobody said life is easy. Nobody said life is fair. Nobody said it's any of those things. It is what it is.
There's always a silver lining. I think what I hear you saying is a silver lining. to
Yeah.
any and all situations. And the other thing is, nothing really happens to us. It happens for us in some way to wake us up to another level of awareness or consciousness. It's for your soul's evolution. So we come out of the victim consciousness. If we stay for me, you never get better. You never get better
Yeah.
feeling sorry for yourself. And listen, some people have a lot more to overcome than others, but we all have something to
Yeah.
meet in this lifetime. And that's why I said I had more than one second chance in my life. I mean, when I think
Yeah.
back to childhood, I should have been dead a couple of times, but I wasn't. I grew up in the South Bronx, so gangs, the whole 9 yards. So I'm laughing, and we need to be able to frame it and see it. Now, in the cover of the book, I don't know if you can see it here.
Yeah. Put it more in front of you. There you go.
Okay,
Yep.
there's the lotus flower. I didn't know this, but here's another sidebar. The editor of the book, her name is Marissa. Uh, I found her through synchronicity through another author that I was involved with in another project, and she said, "You call her up. If she does the book, I'll be in it. But if she doesn't do it, I'm not going to be in it." Well, I said I can't force her to be in it, but I started sending her the stories. By the time she got through, she says, "Man, I want to be in this book." She's the editor. She's the publisher, and so I'm laughing. 23 stories just coincidentally happened to be that's her number. 23 is the day of the month when she was 23 years old that she got hit by a drunk driver crossing, I think she was in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, crossing the boulevard. And she was left for dead. 50 miles an hour, they hit her. Catastrophic injuries, illness. Wound up, as fate would have it, with a chronic illness, but now she runs a foundation called the Lupus Chick Foundation, helping people, mostly women who get lupus, manage their illnesses. But 23 years later, this is another crazy story. When she turned 46, which is the year when we launched the book, she went back to the prison and forgave the guy who ran her down. What a remarkable story that is on just forgiveness alone. So I don't use the word random anymore. It's not part of my vocabulary. I don't believe in randomness. God, whatever you believe, doesn't roll the dice with consciousness. There's a design. There's an inherent invisible design, a thread, and we meet each other at different points in our life cycle, very specifically to give and receive more love to each other, or to help each other along our own path, to inspire one another. So
Yeah.
these 20, go ahead.
Very much so. As you said, things don't happen to us; they happen for us. It's as I wrote that book, That Sucks book. I actually realized after the fact that it was what I had written is God's equation for total peace. God's plan and timing is perfect, plus all things work together for my good equals total peace. Now, none of us would have wanted God to plan the events that happened in our lives. We wouldn't have wanted that, but that was the plan. And so all those things work for our good.
In the end, yes.
When you add that to the plan, right, that they work for our good, it doesn't mean it says all things are good. It doesn't say all things are easy. It says all things work for our good. But when you put those together and when you really own those at a heart level, there's a peace that comes over you that it's like, oh, okay, I get that. The plan was this. It then took me here, which then created that. And so many times, I mean, it's funny because we talk about when I was on the big stages, when I was doing 25,000 person events, and somebody said, well, how'd you get there? Well, 10 years earlier, I helped somebody. 5 years later, I saw them again. Another 5 years later, they were looking for a speaker. I was a 10-year overnight sensation. So I think part of it is we don't recognize, I think we think many times time is finite, right? That these events happen to us. And it's like we don't understand them at that time. And all of a sudden, it might be a year later, might be many years later. All of a sudden, you go, oh, Now I understand. And that's kind of the feel of this book, I think, is I don't think anybody was celebrating the fact that they had this junk happen to them. They were celebrating the fact that the junk that they went through could be beneficial to somebody else.
We have a
And I,
plan. We have a plan, and then the trajectory changes.
exactly, I mean, it's we're off course far more than we're ever on course in life, right? And so we bounce back and forth between these things. And I think a big part of these events, I know certainly for me, I did a lot of seeking and searching for a number of years afterwards, uh, to go, okay, why me? Why am I still here? What do you have for me? What do you want me to do? You've trained me up with all this. And I really think I'm actually just coming into my own now, even though I've been very blessed to do a lot of really cool stuff. I think what I've really been trained up for starts now. And I think that's the net result of being around being around a lot of people who have experienced a lot of things and taking those things. Again, when we were all together as we were launching the book, it was amazing to hear the gratitude person to person, how grateful they were to be here and to have experienced whatever it was that they experienced. That's pretty amazing.
Well, I found that, I had read all the stories. Obviously, I was the funnel to the editor. Reading the stories is one thing, but when people got up and told their story in person, that took us a whole other level of emotional connection.
Yeah, very much so.
I'll never forget Nicole Temperanio, who I met at the Badass Cafe buying coffee, by the way. I'm online. This is how it works, And I said, is this coffee any good? She says, the best coffee you're ever going to have. You ought to buy a pound of it. So I did. She was just standing behind me. I found out she's from New Jersey. One thing led to another, and we live close by each other. And I told her, I'm down here as a snowbird, blah, 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 and I'm writing a book. And she said, what kind of book? And I tell her this second chance. She says, well, I got a second chance at life. I said, you did? She said, yeah, I died. I tried to take my life, and I was saved by my ex-husband. And I said, well, write your story. And then she wrote it. And then she said to me, I'm a little ashamed, Ken. I don't want my kids to find out, that their mother at one point was so low in her cycle. I said, they're going to find out sooner or later. So it's up to you. I don't want you to all cross your boundaries. But she thought about it, and she came out. She came out at Life University. The first time in her life she ever told that story publicly.
Yeah.
She's free now. She is totally free. She said this book changed her life. It got her out of the shadow and the shame of someone going to find out that she did something bad, particularly her children. So you just never know where, when, and how we get put in each other's path.
Yeah, you don't know the reason, the purpose behind it, the intention, but we come across each other for a purpose. There are no accidents. There are Godcidents, right?
Yeah, I call them God winks. Yeah, they're God winks all the time. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and I think anybody listening to this, if you want to consider anything, is just sit and get quiet sometime and think through how you were recently thinking about somebody and all of a sudden they called, or some of the synchronicities of life. You missed this and all of a sudden this showed up, or whatever, and realize they're there for you. Right. And it's one of the things that I coach on a lot is understand that there are no failures. There are things that don't go right. That's true. But I would think
we call those course corrections.
Yeah, I call them learning events.
Right.
We the fortunate part is that when you get more mature, that's code word for older, we've had a whole lot more of them than when you're not as not as mature. And if you take them and utilize them, it's amazing what service they can be to yourself, but also to so many others.
Right. I always say, stay aware, awake, and alert. The signs and symbols are everywhere present. In my first book, Synchronicity, The Magic Mystery Meaning, there are 7 types of synchronicity, 6 reasons why we actually meet each other, 5 questions to ask, why did this happen, and 4 practices to actually create them. So yeah, there is life is not an accidental event. There's an infinite intelligence,
Yeah.
God, whatever you believe, and there's infinite possibilities, but you got to be aware, awake, and alert, and connect the dots. I'm really good at connecting the dots. I meet people all the time, as do you, and I always say, well, where are you from? What are you doing here? Those are the 2 intro. And before 5 minutes, we're going down a rabbit hole. We know people in common.
Yeah.
We share the experiences together. I used to always talk about synchronicity on the beach when I met people. Now I talk about second chances, and invariably, Scott, people say, I had a second chance. I said, well, tell me your story. And so I'm getting those stories now too.
That's very cool. So how do people get a hold of a copy of Second Chances, or multiple copies, so they can share with family and friends?
It's on Amazon. It's in print, and it's both in print and Kindle format. On my website, you can get, if you want a signed copy, go to my website, drkenharris.com, DOCTOR, kenharris.com. And you can go into any bookstore and order it. It's in Ingram Sparks catalog, so you can get it anywhere in the world, basically.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And it's not an easy read, in that you don't read this book from cover to cover. You read a chapter, you stop, you think, you contemplate, you absorb it, and you go on to the next one. But it's not a novel, folks.
It's real life. There's no doubt about that, and well worth taking the time to get your own copy and really think through the stories. I mean, they're pretty amazing from that side. Ken, how about one last?
I want to read just one of the. I got many endorsements. Let me just read 1 or 2 of them. Okay, the title of this was The Lover of Life. They didn't put their name. Second Chances contains a variety of true stories that are so moving. I cried and cheered for these brave authors who never gave up amidst harrowing circumstances. They are here to show us that we too can create a new chapter, no matter what happened in our past. There is so much here that it's worth keeping out. It's worth keeping out to read a story each day to boost my energy and inspire the day ahead. I am deeply grateful for this gift, which has already transformed my life. That's awesome. 1. And there's so many like this. I mean, this book has impact. And I always tell in my sales pitch, if you will, to people, get your tissues out, because it's going to move you. You're going to cry. The authors wrote this from their hearts.
Yeah.
This is not an academic treatise. They spoke from the heart. They all end up happy. They all start out sad, tragedy, but so you're not going to, it's not a Debbie Downer day. You're going to walk out inspired and hopeful.
Inspired and encouraged, and quite frankly, empowered. So Ken, thanks for joining us here on Champions of Inspiration.
Scott, it's always a pleasure to be with you. We did this about 2 years ago, I think, when I did the Synchronicity book. So I appreciate it. And if I write a 3rd book, I'm sure you'll interview me on that one too.
Absolutely. We'll do it again. And to all of you, thank you for joining us. God bless. Have a fabulous day.